everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain. And no, you're not imagining things. Phil is back in the studio after a long break, thanks to the pandemic. So Phil, reintroduce yourself to folks and tell us where you've been the last 2 years.
I'm Phil Nixon. I've been spent my whole career as a extension entomologist with the University of Illinois and retired in 2017 after 37 years with extension. And my requirements were for the last 30 years or so were associated primarily with a pesticide applicator training program. So I went around the state and talked to people about how to do a good job controlling pests with pesticides because they have to be licensed in order to do that. Also at the same time, I did a lot of work with homeowners and commercial people associated with insects, integrated pest management, and that was and including doing a lot of master gardener training, master naturalist training, talking to groups of professional landscapers, tree workers, these sorts of people primarily through my career. So yeah, I've done bugs for a long time.
We call Phil the bug guy. He is the bug guy. Well, we've missed you the past couple of years.
I missed you too.
Have you been keeping busy in the garden?
Oh yes, we live in a rural area associated with 3.5 acres, and so there's plenty of things to do there. But being retired, it's nice to be able to just take an afternoon nap if you want to.
Oh man!
Without closing the office door.
There you go.
And to do what I want to do, and that's really great. You know, it's
I think the thing I'm looking forward to
that's
is
really nice. You know,
that is awesome.
After
and
you've worked
turning
all
off
your
the
life.
alarm clock, right?
Oh yes, I
That's
haven't set an alarm clock for a long time.
Oh, what a great feeling. Okay, so you brought in some things for us to talk about, and these are from your personal collection. So tell us a little bit about your bonsai.
Okay, well, I'm into, my wife and I are both into growing bonsai and have been for as long as we've been adults, essentially. We got to figuring up the other day, and each of us have been doing bonsai for probably about 50 years.
Wow.
And so we both got into it in college and shortly after college. And so the thing that bonsai is a growing of trees in pots. And essentially what you're trying to do is make a small tree look big.
Sounds simple enough.
So in other words, what you do is you keep a tree small. How do you keep a tree small? Well, it's kept small primarily by restricting its root system in the pot. You can go hiking in the mountains and things of this nature, and you can find what we call natural bonsai. And that's a situation in which you've got a tree growing in a crevice in a rock or something like this, has this little few cups of soil to grow in, and as a result of not having much area to grow roots into, it's short on the top as well. Okay. It may have a thick trunk, but it does all the other things that a tree would do that might be 50, 60 feet tall, but it's only a foot tall or 2 feet tall or something of this nature. And there is no size requirement for bonsai. One requirement that I've seen has been it shouldn't be any bigger than 3 people can carry.
Oh.
And then I've also seen 6 people to carry, and so on. And so really there are bonsai that are several feet tall and wide, but they're in a pot, and they're maintained that way. And what we want to talk about today is that we're here in the late winter, and in the Midwest. I talk to people and tell them that many bonsai are outdoor trees, that they need to have the outdoor experience and environment, and they kind of look at you and blink their eyes, and you know that back and behind, they're just not really believing that, you know. It's in a pot,
and so
that means it goes on my coffee table in the house.
Makes sense.
And they'll buy junipers or other types of trees that you might find in big box stores or in garden centers or whatever, and it's in a pot, it goes in the house. No, not if it's a bonsai and it's an outdoor tree. And typically a juniper that's bought and put on inside the house will gradually decline. And if you're a real good plantsman, it may take you, it may take 3 or 4 months to die. It may take 6 months to die, but it will die. It has to have a cold period.
Oh, okay.
If it's a temperate plant, something that's normally found that you would plant outside, and the ones that are commonly sold in box stores and so on are going to be junipers, primarily Juniperus pergummus nana, the Japanese garden juniper. And you can grow that out in your yard and all this sort of stuff. It does well out there. But when you put it in, and you throw it in a pot, and it does very well there, it's a very easy plant to grow, as long as you give it its outdoor conditions.
I did not know that.
And a typical outdoor bonsai, that owned by a master in bonsai, would probably spend no more than 3 or 4 days a year inside a building.
Wow.
And that's probably in a show.
Wow.
It would be outside.
And then right back out.
365
Okay.
days a year. Okay. And this is to illustrate what we've got. This is a Japanese maple, which is hardy and particularly the southern half of Mid-American, essentially from about Springfield or Champaign and Columbus, Ohio, in cities where you get a little bit of warmth effect. I live 15 miles south of Champaign. I cannot keep one alive for anything in the world. They die after about 2 years outside. They get huge cankers up and down the stem, black areas. The stems die off, and it just proceeds back until it's dead. And so this one has been kept in a cold area, a cold greenhouse for the winter. And you can see that it is totally dormant. It has dropped its leaves, which is what a temperate or cold adapted tree will do growing in your yard. It has to do the same thing when it's in a pot. If it does not do that, if you keep it inside or keep it warm, it will deteriorate and die. It needs a cold spell, a dormant spell, in order to rejuvenate.
Now, time-wise, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, what are we talking about?
Commonly, you can get away with 8 to 12 weeks.
8 to 12, okay.
But if you want to do it smart, you give it the same winter time as the ones outside.
So really trying to create just...
You're trying to duplicate exactly what they would be outdoors. And if it's an area that's a little bit, a tree such as this one, which would normally be dormant from probably, say the middle of October to maybe the middle of April, that's what we give this.
Okay.
And really we don't move our bonsai outside to where until it stays. These happen to be in a cold greenhouse in which we don't let the temperature get below about 20 or 25 degrees Fahrenheit. It'll freeze, but it's not enough to freeze the pot.
Gotcha.
Because what will kill a bonsai more than anything else is freezing and thawing of the root system, because anytime that happens, roots break. And if it does this repeatedly through the season, then you end up with lots of dead roots, which means you have a tree that comes out in the spring. It flushes nice growth. You think, boy, that's nice. In about 4 weeks, it goes because it doesn't have anything to support those leaves.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
It's got overwintering energy that put out those leaves, but it doesn't have any way to keep it going. And so this is a case of where we have those. We have ones at our place that are more cold hardy. Things such as hornbeams and elms and things of this nature. And we actually have those in a part of our house on the east side where it doesn't get much sun. And it's where they're buried in leaf mulch to the top of the pots. And then over the top of the upper part is going to be a straw. And as the spring comes on, we will gradually remove that straw. And when the nights are reliably staying above freezing, we'll move them out on the benches in the yard, and that's where they'll stay until the fall. When they move back in, probably sometime in October.
Okay.
So the idea that's a lot of people look at it and go, that tree can't possibly be alive if it's going to drop its leaves and it's in a pot. It can if it's not inside.
Got it.
Okay.
I got it.
And another type of bonsai we have are those that are cold hardy, but not as cold hardy.
Okay.
Okay. This happens to be a a Chinese sweet plum. It's Saccharissa thesans. It's actually not a it's not a true plum. But
I was going to ask if it bear fruit.
It does bear a little fruit, which is why it's called a plum. And apparently they're sweet. I've never had any on one. But this is a tree which is found essentially in central China. Realize, of course, you're on the flip side of the world there.
Yes.
So the farther south you go, the colder it gets. Just the opposite of what we think.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this one is more from northern China, which means it's warmer most of the time.
So it needs that.
It helps to have a cool temperature. This is one that would survive not having a cold temperature, but it does better under a cold temperature. And we have it in the same greenhouse with this other one, but it's hardy only to about zone 7.
Okay.
And that means that temperatures that get much below, say, probably about 0 or 5 above is about as far as it'll handle. And so, and this is many times what's referred to as semi-deciduous. Deciduous means it drops its leaves, which is the case with the Japanese maple. But this one will keep its leaves on during the winter time until it gets towards the latter part of the winter, and then the leaves will start to senesce. They'll start to die back. And you can see on this one that we're getting a lot of brown areas on those leaves. And you can look at that and you go, man, that's got a disease. It's got to have a problem. Let's spray it with a fungicide. No, it's going through its natural process. It will drop these leaves just before it puts new ones on.
Which is so cool because that's the opposite of what we think.
Yeah.
Usually they drop them in the fall.
Yeah. But this one actually hangs on to them. A common plant that you may be more familiar with is pomegranate will do the same thing.
Interesting.
It will hang its leaves on most of the time. If it gets a cold shot, and this one's the same way, if it gets a little bit colder, it'll drop its leaves just like a deciduous tree and then sit there and wait until the spring to put it on. But if it's under warmer conditions, but still cold enough for it to get its nice rest a little bit, these leaves will kind of senesce and these will all drop off in the span. By the time you get into the latter part of March, pretty much all of them will be dropped off. Some of these younger leaves that are newer ones on the ends may stay on because they're younger. But that's the second type of bonsai we have.
Okay.
The third part are truly tropical, and this is actually a Bert Davie Fig. It's you have figs that are going to be associated with weeping fig and so on. Those are the trees you normally see in shopping malls and things of this nature. They have relatively large leaves. This is a small leaved one. There are approximately 300 species of figs, so they don't all look alike. And this one is totally tropical, and it's been in a greenhouse in which we keep the temperature.
How old is this?
This one I don't know. We bought it about 5 years ago.
Wow.
And it was almost this size then.
Really?
So it's it all depends, because being a tropical plant, very likely this one was grown in Florida originally or some other tropical area of the country, and it may have only taken a couple years in tropical areas to get this big, get this thick of a trunk. But when we get into a temperate area such as the Midwest, and is only able to grow when it does best, tropicals do best, when the temperatures stay reliably above 70 degrees at night.
Okay.
For those of you who do not have air conditioning, or those of you that remember back when you did not have air conditioning, those are the nights when it's so hot and muggy that you can't sleep. Okay? I grew up that way. Essentially, July and August was that way.
The miserable
in my house, yes.
section of the year.
I grew up without air conditioning. And you essentially just kind of toss and turn all night, and in the morning you get up and you still didn't sleep well because it's so darn hot and humid. But that's what they do best in. And so they're going to grow best during the second half of June through July into August. So it's only got 2.5 months to grow, really, to really grow and do what it goes, this is what I like. All right?
Gotcha.
But in Florida, it gets
every
those
day.
probably 10 months a year at least.
Yeah.
So it'll grow much faster because it's getting like 3 or 4 years in each one, whatever he gets up here.
I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to throw it over to Liz and John, and they're going to tell you how you can support the program. But when we come back, I have some questions about these bonsai, so we'll be right back.
Well, thank you, Tanisha. My name is John Steinbacher. I'm joined by Liz Westfield, and we're here just to take a few minutes to ask for your support of Mid-American Gardener and all the other wonderful programs you watch each and every day here on Illinois Public Media. You can make a gift right now at 217-244-9455 or go online to willgive.org. It's very easy to do, and you'll be supporting Mid-American Gardener. We are here in the studio, and we're very, very excited to be here, and we're excited to have Mid-American Gardener back in the studio, and more and new exciting things coming for you in the months ahead on this program. But tonight, we're learning about bonsai trees.
Yes, with Phil Nixon, the bug guy. Very excited to have him back for the first time since the pandemic hit. And also very excited to have the Mid-American Gardener team back in the studio just in time for our 100th anniversary. There's such an important and critical part of that 100th history. Nearly 30 years of local gardening advice brought to you every Thursday night, something I know that you count on. And that's why it's so important to give during the programs that you love. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. And I know as a not gardener, I appreciate watching Gardener when I learn that the experts are just like us, and sometimes they mess up, and sometimes things don't live at their house either. Nothing lives at mine, but sometimes things go wrong at theirs. And that's why we love demonstrations like the one that Phil and Tanisha are giving us tonight.
That's right, and we should mention we are hoping to raise $1,500 during this program tonight. It's an important part of our schedule. Of course, when we come to you and ask for your support, it's all about funding the programs that you love. And in order to keep on track and make sure that we can keep providing shows like this, we'd love to hear from several of you tonight. And when you make a donation, of course, we will say thank you. We've got some lovely gardener-focused thank you gifts right now.
Oh.
We'll get to the 100th soon, but we have the Mid-American Gardener mug, which I'm sure many of you are aware of and big fans of, and that comes to you for a gift of $7 a month. The WILL 100 mug, which is brand new, hot off the presses, you can also get for a donation of $7 a month. If you want both to have some WILL 100th coffee in there, we have classic morning blends from Page Roastery, which is a local coffee blending place right here in Champaign. Coffee blending place, that sounds official. But if you make a gift of $5 a month or $60 a year, you can get the coffee. Or for a gift, for a donation of $10 a month, you can get the 100th mug and the 100th coffee. Quite a combination when you support Mid-American Gardener. 217-244-9455. Go online to willgive.org. We make it super easy for you to give, and you can say happy birthday to us with one of those thank you gifts.
Stream the best of PBS on any device with the PBS Video app. All your favorite drama, history, science, news, and documentaries, all in one place. Watch your PBS station live or catch up on the shows you missed. Support your PBS station and you can get Passport, giving you full seasons, early releases, special collections, and more. Get the PBS Video app now and stream the best of PBS anytime, anywhere.
And that's the PBS Video app, a great way to watch Mid-American Gardener when you want on demand. And that's for everybody. That's a free download, so tell your friends. That's also where they can get their local gardening advice if Thursdays at 7 just doesn't really work for their schedule. But we hope that you'll explore more that PBS Video app has to offer. One thing being the PBS WILL Passport. It's a great way to unlock even more great programming. Just one of the many member benefits. If you become a member today, 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. But Mid-American Gardener is why we are here tonight. A legacy program, I would say, nearing 30 years in our 100 years of great programming history, and you can invest in that and be a part of it. In fact, you're one of the most important parts, both in viewing and supporting. Again, 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org.
That's right, Liz. And of course, if you are due for perhaps renewing your membership or you've never given before, perhaps even you let it lapse, you can donate right now and get set up for, as we mentioned, if you do $5 or more per month, you get access to Passport. And one great thing about Passport is they've just added a whole bunch of cooking and gardening type shows to the library there. You'll get lost for hours. It's a great way to spend Saturday afternoon, especially as you prepare either to cook or to garden. Again, 217-244-9455. That's the phone number to call. Or you can go to willgive.org to make an online gift. You can do it via credit card if you want to become a sustainer, which we highly encourage. You can do that via EFT, comes right out of your bank account, or you can do that via U of I payroll deduction if you're a University of Illinois employee. Just a lot of ways to give your support for Mid-American Gardener. And we're going to go back here in just a moment. I believe maybe a little bit more about bonsai trees. And then we're going to get to some questions, which is always exciting because Phil is a bug guy.
He is a bug guy, and he will be answering your questions. Make sure you submit those via Facebook or their email, because you never know when your question might be answered right here on the air. So we'll get back to Tanisha and Phil. Your chance to support this great local program at willgive.org or 217-244-9455. And thanks.
All right, thanks guys, and we'll check back in with you in just a bit. But back to the bonsai. So this one, the maple, you said it's starting to bud, to swell. Are we starting to see signs of spring?
Yes, we are, and you can see that that on the ends of here, on the ends of the branches, the buds are starting to swell a little bit and show up, particularly on the newer growth. But for all over the plant, you can see this sort of thing, and different varieties will come out at different times. We have other Japanese maples that are in our cold greenhouse that have are starting to show a much more swelling in the buds. I wanted one that showed that it was more dormant, but this one is starting to show some early signs. And so when you start thinking about, well, what can you, if you're into bonsai or you want to get into bonsai, what do you do in the wintertime? Well, for the most part, you just kind of cool your heels. Yeah. You're kind of like a corn and soybean farmer. They used to joke about, I grew up in that situation, did some work on the fields, and they would make the comment that all a corn and soybean farmer does during the wintertime is figure his taxes. So, you know, it's, which is kind of that, and they putter around playing with making sure that everything's oiled, everything's painted, and everything's read, but, and so a lot of times you don't do a whole lot, but as you get into the latter part and you can start to see the buds start to swell, that is a good time in which you can start pruning your deciduous or cold hardy bonsai. Now most of them we have right now are, like I said, outside, and the pot would be frozen to the ground. Yes. And you really don't want to jerk on it. You could break the pot theoretically, or something of this nature. We overwinter them in the pots, and bonsai pots are a finer clay and fired at a higher temperature, so you do not break as easily as
so it's a specific
as regular
kind.
Terracotta. Yes.
Okay.
Not only is the shape different than being low and wide, but they are also made of a very fine clay, which has a high firing temperature, which makes them less likely to break. And then there are ones that are made out of plastic, which you can't break at all.
Now, if someone's watching this and they think, oh, this is it, this is my new thing, what is a good starter bonsai tree for folks? What would you recommend?
A good starter is the one that I mentioned in a previous segment, and that is the Juniperus procumbens nana. Okay. Commonly called Japanese garden juniper, but you will find them in pretty much any garden center you want to go to. Okay. And they'll be called garden junipers or procumbens junipers many times. And they're going to be a low-growing, sort of ground cover type evergreen shrub that you can use. That's a great one to get started on.
What is it about bonsai for you?
Elms or maples work pretty well too. I'm sorry?
What is it about bonsai for you? How did you get into these? How did this become your hobby? What is it about them?
It's kind of a strange situation, because when I was an undergraduate and going to graduate school toward entomology degrees, I really got into keeping plants. I like to have green plants in my dorm room, and later when I was living in a house, and I got into these big plants that tend to get in the weeping figs, as I mentioned earlier, that are your mall trees, and bird of paradise plant, and some things that got pretty good sized. I had a Norfolk Island pine that was fairly large, and pretty soon I had, I kind of felt like when I went into my bedroom, I needed a machete to find my way to the bed. Things were just kind of growing up and overwhelming things. And at the same time, on my master's degree, I was working on insects associated with trees. So I really got a real interest in trees, and ended up becoming my area of expertise are insects that feed on trees and shrubs, primarily, although I have other things that I've developed expertise in. But that's the bottom line sort of thing. That's where my theses were associated with my degrees. And so I thought, well, if you grow, you can have more plants if they're small.
Ding, ding, ding.
And you can have trees that are small.
Best of both
Bonsai.
worlds. There
Yes,
you go.
best of both worlds. And I already know what the bugs are to get on the trees, so hey, I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into it. I actually got into it because I wanted something where I could have a number of plants, and that I could enjoy on the porch or wherever, even if they had to be outside, or benches in the yard or whatever the case may be, without having them just grow forever. And one little quote that I like to say when I give a talk on bonsai is that if growing plants is no longer a challenge, try bonsai. You will never be out of challenges.
Ooh, I like that.
Because some people called growing bonsai as growing a tree on the edge of death. Because you are constricting its root system,
yes,
to where it ends up being dwarfed as a result.
Yeah.
A little bit farther and you have a dead tree.
Okay.
Severely dwarfed means dead. When it can no longer has enough root system to support the top growth, you have a dead plant.
It's a dead plant.
And so it is
right on the
a challenging thing. And anytime you talk to anybody that's been in bonsai for very long at all, and you ever want to get a couple favorite beverages sitting around somewhere, and you start talking about trees that you used to have that died, and the typical bonsai person has many more dead tree stories than they have live trees.
That's the tear in there.
There's a drawback, because until you learn how to do it, you tend to lose a lot of them.
Well, I would love to see this guy when it's all leafed out and full later on this spring or summer, whenever that happens.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I told folks that you were coming today, and I said, if you've got pest problems, send us a photo, and we'll get it to the experts. So we have a couple of things that come in. Explain to folks what they're seeing, and this is actually sent in from John Bodensteiner, who is another one of our panelists here. So kind of just diagnose what we're seeing here for folks who may not know.
Well, what we have is obviously a tropical plant. I don't know which one it is, but you can look fairly closely on it, and you can see that it's got a lot of hairs on them, and many of these would be glands associated with the plant, which would produce some sort of sap associated with that. Various plants will have sappy leaves and so on, or glands on the leaves to maybe attract ants. Many times in the tropical areas, they will have these. If you have ants on you and you're a plant, you have a pest control army. Okay, so if you can attract them due to nectar, extrafloral nectaries we call them. That means areas that produce nectar that is not inside a flower, extrafloral. Most of your figs have extrafloral nectaries, normally down to base of the leaf. This one tends to have them all over. And so that's what they will have here. And what you have here is an infestation of aphids. And in the upper left corner of it, you can actually see a winged aphid sitting on the plant, upside down. And a couple other that look kind of brownish on the leaves, only about 3 or 4. And then you have these white things. These white things are actually the cast skins of the aphids. As an aphid grows up, typically an insect as it grows up, will molt 4 or 5 times, 3 to 5 times, most commonly 5 times. And aphids typically will molt 5 times, shedding their outside covering. The skeleton of an insect is on the outside of a body, the muscles attached to the inside of a skeleton. Arm muscles attached to the outside of a skeleton. We have an endoskeleton.
Yes.
They have an exoskeleton. Their muscles attached to the inside of a skeleton. It's a different way of thinking. And But in order to get larger, when we get larger, we have areas at the ends of our bones that expand and the bone grows longer and our flesh keeps up with it. With an insect, in order to get bigger, it has to shed that exoskeleton and it recycles as much as it can, digests it from the inside out, and recycles as many of those nutrients as possible, but it's still left with a little thin area on the outside that it has to shed in order to get bigger.
And that's what we're seeing.
And the inside of the insect, the new insect that comes out from a molting, that skeleton is still soft and it inhales air and sometimes water, drinks water, to make itself as big as possible while that tans or dries or hardens. And then it takes a while before it grows up into it where it's too large again. It's kind of like, you know,
you outgrow the place.
go with your kids. You go and what are you doing when you buy jeans or shoes? You buy them a little bit big so they'll grow into them a little bit. That's the whole idea here. You make it big so you grow into it. And so what you have are the cast skins. And realize important that the cast skins are dead. They're not living parts.
I thought that was funny. You said people report that they can't get rid of these.
Yes, I've had numerous calls or comments over my career of people that say, well, I've got aphids on my plant, and you could control aphids on your plant. Typically, the best way for a homeowner is to use what's called an insecticidal soap.
Okay.
It will be sold in the garden center as an insecticidal soap. You can use a dishwashing detergent, but many dishwashing detergents are going to not only be good at killing bugs, but also killing plants. They will dissolve the waxy coverings on the leaves, and this will cause the plant tissue to dry out, and you'll have dead leaves, and enough dead leaves is a dead plant. So we recommend against that. You can go on the internet, you can find all kinds of recipes, and people somehow love to control bugs with what they can find on their kitchen counter,
I was just going to say that.
or in their bathroom closet, or whatever the case may be. But in reality, what you want to do is use something that's sold for that. And what's the difference? They're both soaps,
Right.
but the insecticidal soap has been selected to kill bugs and not plants.
You know what? I'm guilty of the old 1 drop of dish soap in with the neem oil, shake, shake, shake. But now I'm not going to do that anymore.
And I've used that myself. Well, it's usually a teaspoon of dishwashing detergent to a gallon of water. But after 30 minutes, I wash it off because I don't want to have dead plants.
Gotcha.
But a better way to do it is to use insecticidal soap. You leave it on it. It's not going to harm the plant. You can even get into the soil, and you get regular dishwashing detergent in the soil, you almost certainly got a dead plant because those roots can't handle that. Soaps will tend to suck moisture out of things. And you suck moisture out of your roots, you got a dead plant.
You got a
That's
dead
just all there is to it, you know. And so in this case, what you've got is another advantage of the insecticidal soap are these cast skins are hanging onto this plant due to honeydew that the aphids produce. Sucking insects will produce a concentrated form of sap that they, or part of the sap that they will excrete, and this will dry down into a sticky, sugary material, kind of like syrup. And this will hang these cast skins, or exuviae, we call them to be technical, as well as the glands that are on the plant. And when using an insecticidal soap, guess what that does? That tends to dissolve that honeydew and that sap associated with those glands, and it helps get the dead shells off the plant too. So, but yeah, I've had numerous people say, you know, I can kill the green ones, I can kill the in this case, the reddish aphids. These would be green peach aphids in all likelihood. A good way of field characteristic of knowing green peach aphids is they're normally reddish.
Okay.
Figure that one out. Green peach aphid is reddish.
There's always.
But at any rate, the point is that gets rid of the white ones too. Or, you know, you just look at it and you go, hey, I know you guys are dead. I don't need to worry about you.
And just kind of let it go. Okay.
But insecticidal soap will take care of the aphids and so on the plant otherwise.
Okay. We're going to go back to John and Liz real quick, and then when we come back, we've got more Facebook questions.
Thanks so much, Tanisha. Love seeing you and Phil answering those local questions. This is a local gardening program, which means you have a chance to get your questions answered on the air. Submit them on Facebook or via the Mid-American Gardener email address. And we love to learn more about bugs. I mean, who knows? I don't know anything about bugs, but it's very interesting to hear Phil, the bug guy, back in the studio helping you out with those insects that are just little pests in your garden. But you can support this program, willgive.org or 217-244-9455.
That's right. We're hoping to raise $1,500 here tonight in support of Mid-American Gardener. You can make a contribution right now and join dozens and hundreds and thousands of other friends throughout Central Illinois by supporting Mid-American Gardener, but also so many other wonderful programs. Perhaps you're a fan of Antiques Roadshow, all of the great dramas on PBS. We have some excellent local shows. Perhaps in last November, we aired State of Change, which Tanisha hosted, which was a local news show about the changing impact of the environment on the state of Illinois. We also have a wonderful daily talk show called The 21st on our news station. We had classical BTS. There's just always so much going on that you're helping support in addition to Mid-American Gardener, which of course is just a great way and great reason to support this station.
And when you're thinking about that support, think of those beyond the camera. There are so many people and so much effort that goes into creating these local programs. It's not just the people that you see on the air. That's certainly very important, those hosts bringing their expertise and bringing that into the community. But you have a lot of people behind the scenes making those efforts happen and making them work very smoothly. So that $1,500 goal tonight for Mid-American Gardener is going to support the efforts on and off the air, in front of the scenes, behind the scenes. You are a critical part of making that run very smoothly. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. And when you do support this program, tell us why Mid-American Gardener is so important to you and why it has inspired you to either become a first-time friend, increase your gift, or become a friend again. Maybe it's lapsed, which totally happens. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. And I think we have more questions coming up too.
We do have more questions coming up, and of course, as Liz mentioned, I just wanted to say real quick here before we go to our little break here, that we do share all your comments, if you good and bad. Most of them are good, but sometimes you have critical comments. We share those, but we share those with the staff. So if you, when you make your donation, have a suggestion or anything like that, let us know. We're happy to share that. 217-244-9455 or go to willgive.org. And here's a little information about how to become a sustaining friend.
Sustaining membership is an easy and convenient way to support the programs you love. As a sustaining member, you make an ongoing monthly contribution from either your checking account or credit card. The amount you give is entirely up to you. Your donation will happen automatically each month, so you never have to worry about your membership expiring. If you do need to change the amount of your monthly contribution, just contact us. Best of all, when you make a qualifying donation, you can enjoy our most popular member benefit ever, Pbs Passport. With Passport, you can watch an incredible collection of drama, science, art, and history programs whenever you want. You can stream them on your TV using the PBS app for your Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, newer Samsung Smart TV, or Android TV, or watch on your phone, tablet, or computer. So please, call or go online to start your sustaining membership now.
And if you'd like to become a sustainer here at WIL, you can do it via EFT, you can do it via credit card or University of Illinois payroll deduction. It's super easy to do. If you're already a sustainer, you can of course make an additional gift tonight in support of Mid-American Gardener, or you can even increase your current gift. And if you go to willgive.org, there's a super easy way to do that. And perhaps you've been giving at $5 or $6 a month. Well, if you increase your monthly gift to $7 a month, you can take the Mid-American Gardener mug, which of course is always popular. It's a little planter. We know that everyone likes that because we hear about it often. If you increase your gift or make a first-time gift of $10 a month, we'll send you the Midwest Native Plant Primer. And I got to tell you, we've been offering this for about a year now, and it is very popular. We've gotten a lot of great feedback about this, especially as you're getting ready for spring here. This is a great way to get ready with local native plants. And if you make a gift of $15 a month or a one-time gift of $180, you can get both as a combo. So that's just one way we say thank you to you when you're supporting WILL and Mid-American Gardener. Liz, it is our 100th anniversary, so we're hoping for a great support of Gardener tonight.
Yes, and if you are currently a member or about to become one, you're going to start receiving our member magazine patterns hitting mailboxes around the area right now. And you're going to see that Tanisha, our host here of Mid-American Gardener, is featured in that member magazine. A little Q&A with her as we approach spring, what you should be focusing on, what you should be doing out there in the garden. And that's just one of the many ways that Mid-American Gardener reaches you where you are at to continue to give you the local advice that you love, that you trust, that you count on, that you enjoy, that it entertains you. And speaking of being entertained, we are back to Phil and Tanisha. Don't forget to give right now, 217-244-9455 or willgive.org. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. All right, and we're back with Phil now. Now, this is a question from Facebook. This is from Terry Houston, writes in. I believe these are squash bugs, and when you see the picture, it's going to give you the willies, because it did me. They destroyed every variety of squash in my garden and my cantaloupe and caused damage to other things like tomatoes and peppers. Any advice for this year before emergence and after would be much appreciated. And the picture here was the very first ever and only spaghetti squash that they were able to grow, and it did not make it. So what would you suggest here for a pre-emergence treatment to avoid this?
Well, you know, you see a nasty looking picture with bugs.
I do.
See, I look at that and I go, man, that's a neat looking shot of squash bugs. And you have various nymphal stages. You have second, third, fourth, fifth instar nymphs showing various stages of development of this insect. And even over on the right side, towards about a third, about halfway down the squash, there's actually an adult. So you've got four of the 6 stages. Yeah, that one right there. And so you got 4 of the 6 stages of squash bug here, which are related to stink bugs. And so I look at that and I go, man, that's the kind of thing I like to use in teaching, because you can show all these different stages and all that sort of stuff, and what they actually do. And what they do is they suck out juices, and even it didn't, many times there's enough of them, they'll shrivel the squash, and even if there's not enough to shrivel the squash, say that 4 times, shrivel the squash, they will actually cause the squash to have an off flavor. And sometimes a pretty nasty off flavor.
Oh,
okay?
gosh.
So because they inject chemicals from their bodies in the process of feeding on the squash. But what these will do is, like many of the true bugs, which is what this is called, stink bugs, squash bugs, many of the larger ones like this, usually overwinter as adults. And where they overwinter are going to be protected areas. They're going to be in areas associated with debris that might be along a fence row, or underneath a bunch of shrubs, or in your garden. And this is one of the main reasons why it's a good thing to remove the debris from a garden in the fall and rake it up and compost it. Or if you're in the country like me, you can burn it. Anything you want to do to get rid of that eliminates the protective areas for the squash bugs and some other pests over winter. Now, the other side of this coin is you have some good bugs that overwinter this way. And things such as lady beetles, ladybugs, they do the same way in overwintering. And so when you do this, guess what? You're reducing your number of ladybugs that overwinter. So as in many things in gardening, whatever you do has a plus side and a minus side in it. And so obviously what you would do here is you might not remove all the debris in a garden, but if you remove the debris associated with your squash area, you are getting hopefully more squash bugs eliminated than you are ladybugs and other things that you want to have. And just you can compost it, you can do whatever. That compost pile will heat up enough to kill the bugs. You typically get up to 140 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. 120 to 130 kills pretty much any insect. So, you know, as it would us.
Now, is this where every year rotating where your crops are comes into play as well?
Makes a big difference. In fact, when I grow squash, sometimes what I like to do is do not only rotate by area, but rotate through time. In other words, if I have more than one garden plot, I will plant squash in one plot one year, and another year of it may be across the whole yard away the next year, or if and I've always had, my garden plots now typically are close together, and so what I do is sometimes I will grow squash one year, wait a year, and grow squash the next year.
Okay.
Because because squash produce well, you can find those easily at garden markets and so on. So farmer markets. So it's so that's something where you really mess up the squash bugs when you don't have the crop that they need the next year. They're going to have to fly to find something more, or they're going to starve to death. Maybe one of the two.
One of the two.
And so that's a good way. But even this time of year, as we're heading towards spring, late winter, we can getting rid of that debris associated with that squash bed area will help reduce it, the number of overwintering bugs that are going to be able to survive that.
Okay.
And of course, the best time to do it would be on kind of a colder day, temperatures below 40 degrees, because most insects are only able to, being cold-blooded, they can only move and run away when it's over to about 45.
Okay.
So if you do it when it's colder, then then they're not walking away from you and finding someplace else.
Gotcha. Okay. And as far as treatment goes, would you put anything as far as a chemical or something into the ground or into the garden area to treat this?
No, you wouldn't necessarily do any sort of a pre-treatment. These insects tend to lay their eggs on the underside of a leaf towards the base, and they lay their eggs in groups, and they'll be reddish brown in color, and they'll kind of be V-shaped group, because as the veins come together on the leaf on the underside, it forms a V. So if you're going to fill the area, you're going to make a V. And there'll be somewhere around 15 or 20 eggs at a time, probably 16 to 20 or 20, or 14 or 21, I should say. Tend to lay their eggs in groups of 7 for some reason.
Interesting.
But at any rate, you can rub those out. You can clip off that leaf and dispose of it. This will help reduce it. When they're on squash like this, you can kill them with insecticidal soap on contact. There are pyrethroid insecticides that are going to be effective against them as well. But you need to rotate or try to find ones that work well and not necessarily use the same one. They've become resistant to some insecticides, and they're kind of hard-shelled, which makes them kind of resistant to start with. And they don't chew the leaves, they just suck the juices out, which means that they don't take in a lot of insecticide in the process.
Gotcha. They're kind of tricky.
Yeah. You know, that's why we hire entomologists, so they know something about the bug. It kind of helps out.
There you go. There you go. Okay.
Rather than flying blind.
You, speaking of overwintering insects, you brought a friend.
Yes. This is
a crowd favorite. Everybody loves the woolies,
Bandy
right?
wooded bear. And you'll find these throughout the winter. And I've had people call me up before, and they want to know, well, what do I do with this thing? You can see it's alive, it's moving. And you know, do I put it in a terrarium or something? Do I keep it warm? What do I feed it? And you know, it's kind of like that same story of when you find what looks to be an orphan mammal or bird out there. You're best off leaving it alone, because mom's probably somewhere around. Well, mom isn't here. She's dead long ago. But the important thing associated with this insect is one of several caterpillars that overwinters as a larva. Boy, he's doing real.
He's very interesting.
He's being photogenic.
Here's what you're saying about him.
Yeah, and so the best thing you can do is kind of leave him where he is, and what he'll do is he'll come out on a warm day and crawl around a little bit. And then as it gets cold, they'll find a place that's protected, hopefully where a mouse won't find him and eat him. And they will, and he'll be dormant. He won't be able to move till you put him in your hand and he warms up a little bit, and he'll start moving around. These really do not go through any hibernation. They just when it gets too cold for them to move around, they stop moving.
They just stop. And
they can handle colder temperatures. They'll move around in temperatures. Anyway, anytime it's above freezing, you'll commonly see them moving around. So they can handle colder temperatures to move around in and stay active. And in the late winter, they will pupate, kind of the same thing as we think of as the cocoon stage. A cocoon is a pupa with silk spun around it by the larva of the caterpillar. But But most insects don't have a cocoon. It's just what we call a naked pupa. It's kind of a reddish brown to a dark brown to a blackish type of thing. And from there will come out the moth in this case, usually in the very early days of spring. And this is an insect that likes to eat violets as well as some other things. So when I'm looking for caterpillars of banded woolly bears, I tend to look at violets that are growing in my yard that other people call weeds and I call flowers.
Excellent. Well, those, I'm telling you, we find those, my kids love to play with them. We've got a couple that are overwintering in the basement right now. I just leave them. When I go down to get the laundry, I just kind of, I just leave them. And maybe we'll take them outside in the spring.
The yellow woolly bear also overwinters as a larva. These are the ones that you find on lamb's quarter and some other plants that they'll be anywhere from a yellow color to a reddish color, which is probably the center of this one. Some of them are only almost blackish.
Now I have to ask.
And they're all the same species, and they do the same thing. They overwinter as larvae, pupate late in the season, and they'll come out as a white moth.
I have to ask, do they predict the weather?
No.
Okay. Just had to get that out there because a lot of people think so, and it's kind of a fun sort of folksy thing that we do.
This is a good example right here. This is the head end. Notice how wide the black area is, how wide the brown or rust, and how short the tip is. By the way it would be predicting, it would say that we would have an early, very cold, long winter.
Is that accurate?
Did we?
I mean, it's been long.
Only about 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks.
Oh, it seems so much longer.
Remember, November, December, and most of January was warm. Many of times it was in the 50s or the 40s.
All right.
We didn't have any really severe cold temperature till we got towards the end of December.
That's true.
Or end of January, end of February. And so actually this should have been a very small black area.
Gotcha. That one's a bad prediction.
That's not a good prediction.
Okay.
And in reality what happens is that when these insects hatch, and they will have very little black on the head or of the tail end, and a big reddish area in the center. And as they get older, the black area increases, regardless of the winter. He's not going to drop off.
I thought we were going to lose him.
This is a bug that if you fall off your plant, you starve to death. So he's not going to drop.
Oh, he's not going anywhere.
No, he's not going.
Okay, we're going to check in with John and Liz, and we'll be right back.
And thank you so much, Tanisha. Liz and I are here once again to ask for your support of Mid-American Gardener tonight on this very special extended edition of Mid-American Gardener. And the stars are out. How about that woolly worm?
If that doesn't convince you to support this show, I don't know what will. That cute little woolly worm was like, this is my time to shine, my 15 minutes of fame. It was just adorable, and we love those hands-on demonstrations. And really, they're the best here in the studio. And the show pivoted throughout the pandemic, brought you great gardening advice via Zoom from a safe distance. They kept the show going. They kept meeting you where you were. But now that we can be back in the studio, we can meet little woolly worm stars.
That's right.
Who knew?
I do love when the bug guy comes because we get those kind of things. And gardening is not just about the plants. It's about, of course, making sure that you have, the right kind of bugs.
And how to handle the wrong kind of bugs in the right way. We learned a lot from Phil on that too.
Right.
And I loved to see Phil nerd out about this photo that kind of made, Tanisha a little squirmy, but he thought it was a great educational piece about those squash bugs. So we really love to see that they're bonding back in the studio and that you get to connect with them in this way. If you continue to love Mid-American Gardener and you've never given, I hope that woolly worm will push you over the edge. 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org, because not only is it a great time for Mid-American Gardener, it's a great time for Illinois Public Media.
That's right. We are celebrating our 100th anniversary this year. In fact, just a little bit over a month, on April 6th will be the official day that we turn 100. And of course, we've been celebrating all year with lots of great events and thank you gifts. And right now, we have this very cool Will 100 mug that we're offering exclusively during our 100th anniversary, which you can get for a gift of $7 per month. We also, of course, in addition to the mug, we've commissioned the local roastery, Page Roastery, to make a very special Classic Mornings Blend. If you are a fan of our FM station, you're probably familiar with the Vic DiGeronimo's program, Classic Mornings. So we have the Classic Morning 100th Anniversary Coffee to go along with your 100 mug. If you would like to receive both of those as a combination, you can do that for $10 a month or a one-time gift of $120. And then, of course, we do have the other regular gardener thank you gifts. You can get the plant mug for a gift of $7 per month. And we have the Great Midwest Native Plant book for a gift of $10 per month. And you can do a combo of that for $180. This great thank you gifts. Of course, the most important gift is your support to help make sure that Mid-American Gardener and all the other programs you see or watch or stream, you can make a gift right now at 217-244-9455.
This month in Passport on the PBS Video app, your on-demand library for the best of PBS.
Jeans are the quintessential American garment.
By getting video footage, we might be able to unravel this mystery and figure out what they're doing.
Really think you can cross the entire globe in just 80 days?
Certainly, madame, or die trying.
These and other shows from your PBS station are available with Passport on the PBS Video app. Download it today.
Passport, what a great member benefit that you can access, unlock those great programs. We just saw the March highlights, but I assume if you're here watching Mid-American Gardener, you love a DIY show. So whether that's in the garden, in the kitchen, or just throughout the home, we have great gardening and cooking shows and how-to shows that you can be watching on Passport, whatever it's most convenient for you. So you can give it 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org to unlock that member benefit, but also know that the PBS Video app is free for everybody. And you can find this program and so many other great programs at your convenience. And that's the great thing about public media. Whether or not you have the ability to give and support your local station doesn't matter. We want you taking advantages of our services and watching and enjoying our programs. No matter what your ability to give is. However, if you are in a position to do so and you'd like to step up tonight, perhaps increase your current gift or become a member for the first time, 217-244-9455 or online at willgive.org. And there's so many ways to give.
That's right. And through our 100th anniversary, we're encouraging the folks who are maybe in a position to make a larger gift, become part of our Vision Circle. Those are donors who make a gift of $1,000 or more annually. We hope to have 100 more Vision Circle members this year. And if you are in a position to make that gift, what a wonderful time to do it during our 100th anniversary year, during Mid-American Gardener, our local show that's been on the air for almost 30 years. For those of you who can afford to make that gift, please consider making one. Of course, not everyone can, so that's great. As we look at our fundraising throughout the year, we get a little less than a third from our Vision Circle, a little less than a third from our Leadership Circle, which is donors between $250 and $1,000, and then well over a third comes from donors below $250. So every gift really makes a difference and helps WILL and Illinois Public Media keep going strong. 100 years is very impressive. And Mid-American Gardener for almost 30 years is also impressive, and it's all through your support. 217-244-9455 or go online to willgive.org. And I believe we've got just one more little segment here with Tanisha and Phil. I don't know if they've got any other creatures
I hope so.
that can beat the woolly worm, but good luck to who's ever next. 217-244-9455.
Thanks, guys. All right, Phil, we're almost out of time, but you wanted to talk a little bit more about some overwintering insects.
Yeah, some insects will overwinter as adults. And we have a couple notable butterflies that actually overwinter in the Midwest. One is the mourning cloak, which tends to have blackish wings that have a gold margin on the wings.
Okay.
And another one is the red Admiral, which is black with reddish orange streaks. Illini orange, a reddish orange type thing.
Now, are those some of the first two that we'll start to see in the spring?
Yes, and you even get a warm winter day, you're likely to see those out because they fold their wings up together and slide sideways up underneath loose bark and stay that way for the winter. And it gets to be a warm day, gets up in, say, the high 50s or low 60s, they'll be out flying around and people will see those and go, wow, where did they come from?
Yes.
Well, it may be the next one 2 weeks later, but it was underneath the bark in the intervening cold weather until it stays warm.
Well, you know what? That's going to be something I'm going to hold on to that as the sign of spring. Thank you so much. It's been
You're
a
welcome.
blast. That
Yeah.
went really fast. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Good night.